This is Free Talk Live, the live Sunday edition of the program, inviting you to join us here. If you want to take control of the airwaves, you can do that. And the number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, there's a lot that we can discuss. On the way tonight, there's apparently what some people are calling a revival of the cassette tape, which is ridiculous and stupid, which we can get into that. Plus, the latest on this prostitution sting down in Florida that ensnared the Patriots owner. Apparently, there's another billionaire who's now on the wanted list for visiting one of these jack shacks, for lack of a better term. And so we get all that. Plus, Americans apparently, Richie Rich is with me here. I'm Ian Freeman. Hey, Richie.
Hello.
We may be joined by another Rich here at some point if he didn't pass out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Rich Paul is right now. But so also Americans call the government the top problem in the United States. So we can discuss that. Plus Bitcoin in Venezuela. I don't know how much of this we're going to be able to fit in, but let's start with the fast food update. Something that a lot of Americans have in common is their love for fast food. And, of course, the faster it is, the better it is, right? Like
sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm okay sitting around for a little bit for a better burger.
True. But if you're in a hurry, you want to get the food quickly. It's nicer when it's a little bit faster rather than having to sit in a tremendous line to pick up the food that you're waiting on. And if it's an automated attendant who you're talking to when you are placing your order, is it possible that that's going to make things go smoother rather than make things more difficult? And speak of the devil, and he has appeared. Hello, Rich Paul.
Satan himself right here.
Welcome, sir.
Stories coming from the San Francisco Gate at SF Gate. Oh, actually, the Washington Post, I guess, originally. Peter Hawley writing that the drive-thru window is often considered the most harrowing assignment inside a fast food restaurant. Richie, you've worked in fast food before. Have you ever done drive-thru?
Not the fast. I worked at a salad restaurant for fast food, so never a drive-through window.
Gotcha. It's a nonstop whirlwind of multitasking. The gig involves organizing multiple orders, communicating with the kitchen, counting money, and negotiating with an endless stream of customers who range from polite and coherent to angry and inebriated.
That's more me.
Less
they left out Guano Loco.
Right?
You get a lot of. I've done drive-through, and yeah, it's not my thing. It's not what I like in the least bit, but I have done it.
Where was the last place?
I think Taco Bell was the last place I did it.
How long ago?
It would have been in the early 90s, I think.
Did you ever hear about those pranks where guys with the right radio equipment will show up in a nearby parking lot and receive the radio transmissions and then broadcast over top of the two-way unit, basically, to where they can talk to the customers? You ever seen any of those pranks?
No, I haven't.
They're pretty entertaining.
That does sound like fun.
Yeah.
That seems like a harmless and fun prank.
Right.
Not the ones where they walk up and throw the milkshake back at the cashier window.
Yeah, that's rude.
Cool.
Those are awful. There was the one guy that he was actually from Sarasota, Florida, where I'm originally from, who would drive up to like a McDonald's or a Burger King, would order an ice cream cone, and then proceed to just stick it into his face. So he didn't do anything to the person who was giving him the cone. He would just take the cone. He'd pay him for the cone,
right,
and then just proceed to just stick it directly into his face.
Okay,
and it was hilarious. What was particularly
was he playing
fun?
the Grateful Dead when he did this? Because
I don't think so.
One of their symbols is actually a guy named Eddie with an ice cream cone on his head.
So
working on his performance art, maybe.
The really funny thing was the reactions of course, the drive-through person. The McDonald's drive-through person started to get angry because what he would do is he'd drive around and then order another ice cream cone at the same McDonald's and then proceed to put it into his face. Again, paying for the cone.
Okay.
So he's a paying customer. And
could he have been a man with an eating disorder?
Right. Well, it's like the old joke from Airplane, right? Where
I think I might have a drinking problem.
Right, and then he throws it into his ear. I think it was in his ear or something like that.
Well, he threw one in his face. I think he threw one over his shoulder. He threw them everywhere.
So it was like that joke. But man, the person behind the drive-thru had no sense of humor whatsoever and got really angry. He threatened to call the police on him.
You're cutting into his standing around time.
Like the manager was also involved and angry. Like the whole crew at McDonald's they had a big stick up their butt about this guy just having a little bit of fun, and making a mess of his own car. They didn't have to clean it up or anything like that. So then when he went to Burger King, he got a completely different response. The Burger King people were just laughing. They thought it was hilarious.
Have it your way.
Yeah,
right. I once got kicked out of a drive-thru for showing up on a bicycle. But
they hate that stuff.
I don't know why.
Some of them.
The inside restaurant was closed for the night, and we were hungry. We just happened to be out late.
Most fast food places have a policy that they won't accept people on bicycles or pedestrians
or walkthroughs. Yeah.
At the drive-up window, and the reason is they don't want them to get hit by cars.
Yeah.
Well, they're in there now. It seems stupid to me because most of us know that we're not allowed to hit bicycles or pedestrians or other cars. So we're aware that whatever it is that's there in front of the drive-through, we're not allowed to hit it.
And we had already made it to the order window, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, that's silly.
Yeah.
That's silly.
So back to the story here from the SF Gate. If that juggling act wasn't hard enough, and of course they point out that all this is frequently done for a minimum wage paycheck.
No fast food place pays minimum wage
these
anymore.
Days, probably not.
McDonald's pays like $10 an hour, $11 an hour, depending on where you go.
Maybe it's minimum wage in San Francisco where they've raised the minimum wage.
Oh, yeah, well, if you raise minimum wage high enough, everybody pays minimum wage.
It says here, a giant timer hangs in many drive-thru kitchens, adding urgency to each task, according to former workers. Though the drive-thru gauntlet has broken many a fast food worker, the newest employee at Good Times Burgers and Frozen Custard in Denver won't be feeling the heat anytime soon. That's because she's an artificially intelligent voice assistant, emotion-free and immune to stress, with the ability to operate a drive-thru window without fatigue, bathroom breaks, or compensation. She fills a classically American job nearly a century in the making, a rite of passage for generations of teenagers that could be in the very early stages of a mass extinction. But first, Rob Carpenter, CEO and founder of Valiant AI, an artificial intelligence company that designed the customer service platform, will have to prove that his model works as well as he says that it does. The AI assistant has endured months of testing, but officially began handling the restaurant's breakfast orders last week. If the fledgling assistant runs into any technical issues, the transaction is handed off to a human employee inside the restaurant.
How is that any different from the kiosks that some McDonald's have inside?
It's no different.
Okay.
Just without a punch screen. It's all voice.
Okay.
Right? Unless they have a punch
sounds like
screen.
It runs on voice recognition. And does it do any of the physical work of actually delivering the...
I doubt it. No, it's just AI at this point, so it's not a robot.
Okay.
Not a robot system.
They do have burger-making robots, though.
But yeah, they're working on that stuff, too, for sure. They say here it's endured months of testing, and it again has started breakfast orders. So the system, they say, takes a lot of friction out of interactions between customers and employees, said the CEO, noting the AI was designed to sound like an amiable woman's voice. Quote, the AI never gets offended, and it will just keep talking to you in a very calm and friendly voice.
See, that's not what I want. I mean, I want an AI where I can go and troll that thing and, like, piss it off.
See, and I might want that because I was talking to Ian prior to the show, and I said I had an anecdote to share about this particular issue. So I'm originally from Hawaii,
right?
And in Hawaii, we do not celebrate daylight savings time.
Excellent.
So this is when, prior to the days of all-day breakfast.
No one celebrates
Yeah,
daylight
I don't think
savings.
anybody celebrates.
Well, we pay zero attention to it.
Right.
It's like, what time do I have to
you
call
don't
you? You
recognize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is when McDonald's had their breakfast going up until like 10:30 a.m., right?
Didn't they go 24-hour, though?
At some point, yes. But this is not when that happened.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm this is going to sound a little like the patriarchy, but I sent my girlfriend at the time to go get us some breakfast. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. Breakfast ends at 10:30. She goes to the drive-thru and is turned away because they thought it was 11 a.m.
What?
Right. I'm going to leave it as a cliffhanger because I hear the music.
All right, there's more coming up here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And you can join us on our Discord server as well over at discord.lrn.fm. This is the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live. Your comments, welcome. Free Talk Live Sunday edition of the show. You dial toll free and join us here. Our number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. If you are an individual who rejects the initiation of force and agrees to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle, then you qualify to use liberty.menu. If you aren't that kind of individual, then stay away. Liberty.menu is for liberty-minded folks who want to help promote the thing that they do. So if you're a digital content creator, if you have an event, if you are a business person, you can let other liberty-friendly folks know that you exist. It's basically a business directory, and it's easy to use. It's very pretty, it's nice, and it's free. So go to liberty.menu. You can get started there. You can use code FTL on your user profile and get a special Free Talk Live listener badge. And again, free to list your businesses for other libertarians, voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists to find out about. So unless you don't want free publicity, then you should go to liberty.menu. That's liberty.menu as we continue here. Ian, Rich, and Richie in the studio here tonight. We're talking about the AI, or at least what they're calling AI. Now, of course, it's just a glorified voice prompt where it's programmed to recognize human voice, and maybe there's even like a screen. It wouldn't surprise me if this is paired with an order screen, because that would make more sense. It would seem like that you'd get less wrong if you let the customer see the thing that they're ordering. There'd be fewer errors between the communication.
That's kind of why I asked if it was like the inside kiosks, because if you can put the display on the outside.
They could. I mean, that's not hard to do, right? Like, displays are cheap these days.
The hard thing to do would be the touch screen within reach of a car window, because that's always, I don't know if you've pulled up to, banks where the ATM machine is stuck in the wall. And that can be...
It can be tricky.
Really awkward, especially if you have short arms.
Or if you're a bad driver.
Or if you're a bad driver, absolutely.
But it hasn't been clear if there was a screen involved yet, so I'm not sure about that. This is a story from the San Francisco Gate about the new technology that has taken over drive-thru for the breakfast shift at a store, or I guess a drive-thru location in Denver. According to the story, it's Good Times Burgers and frozen custard. Anyway, the owner and CEO, of the company that's doing the AI work says the AI never gets offended, and it'll just keep talking to you in a very calm and friendly voice. There's an immediate benefit for employees as well. Quote, over the course of an 8-hour shift, they don't have to repeat the same welcome language hundreds of times. Now, Richie, you were telling us a story, and I don't think we actually got through the whole thing. Can you recap it briefly?
Yes. So I'm from Hawaii, where there's no daylight savings time.
Right.
So I sent my girlfriend to the drive-thru to pick us up some breakfast. At 10 in the morning.
Patriarchy.
That's what I was saying. And this is when McDonald's ended breakfast at 10:30. So we had time. And she came home empty-handed because she was told at the drive-thru window that breakfast had ended already because it was 11 o'clock.
Because McDonald's is recognizing daylight saving time in Hawaii?
Imagine this. So I called the McDonald's, and I don't get a hold of anybody. So I'm furious at this point. I call the other McDonald's. In a neighboring town.
Is it the same franchisee?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't care. Just calling McDonald's to talk to a manager to find out what is going on and why I could not get my breakfast.
Yep.
And I was told that the drive-thru operator was in Texas. And they had celebrated daylight savings time and didn't know what time it was in Hawaii, which is why we were turned away.
Wow. So they were still serving breakfast in the restaurant.
In the
but
restaurant.
At the drive-thru, it was no longer available due to...
Texas operator.
A human operator, though, right? This was a human operator in Texas.
Which is why I'm okay with, AI taking my order, because
they're going to get it right.
They'll probably get it right.
Right.
Yeah. Although it's quite possible and likely that it wasn't the human operator who made the mistake, but rather that whoever set up the system put that restaurant in the wrong time zone in the first place.
Yeah, it could be.
That's possible, but sometimes you go to McDonald's and you see the person taking your order with the headset on. Right. And this one was apparently either fraudulent because they were in Texas, thinking that it was the wrong time.
Well, did she see the person with the headset on?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Okay.
I wonder how.
The other thing is they could be using the call center for overflow.
That's true.
Have one person on there, but if you've got 2 order stations, then you could route the second one to Texas.
I wonder how common it is that McDonald's are outsourcing the drive-thru. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's it's kind of surprising to me that they would do that.
Yeah.
It seems like a bad value
It doesn't seem as
proposition.
efficient.
I mean, I can almost see if there was a version of India where they spoke perfect English, I can see outsourcing it there.
Yeah.
But I can't see outsourcing it to Texas because I don't see why labor is going to be significantly cheaper down there unless they're just scooping up illegal aliens and, putting them to work at $4 an hour. Fresh over the border. I don't know.
Well, for a while, the Texas minimum wage, wasn't it like closer to the federal minimum wage? So that may have played a role.
So they pay less because in Hawaii it's probably pretty high, right?
Oh, yeah. This is Hawaii. So Hawaii is its own little socialist utopia.
Yes.
Do they have have they gotten to the $15 an hour minimum wage
I think
yet?
they're currently around 10, and they're working up towards the 15 over the next few years.
Okay, who's at 15 now? Like some cities are?
Seattle,
like
I
San
think.
Francisco and Seattle?
That sounds right.
And I think somewhere in New York.
New York, maybe.
Yeah.
New York City's
Isn't
working
New
towards
York
it.
State working toward it, or
I'm
just
not
New
sure.
York City?
I know the city is. I'm not sure about the state.
Wow. I know they're starting to have, one of those towns is starting to have what they're calling a restaurant recession. I think it's
New York City.
New York City.
Yeah, there was an article about that because they are raising the rates over a few years to $15 an hour, and already people are getting their jobs cut because they have to.
Yeah.
Sure. But, of course, that's not going to last forever either because, people get there's still going to be people wanting to eat.
Sure.
And if the restaurants are all closing down, then the existing restaurant or the remaining restaurants are going to raise their prices.
Of course. Of course.
It's got to happen.
But they're still cutting staff. Right now, they're cutting staff.
Sure.
If you've got a job, you may lose it entirely or you'll lose hours, one or the other, typically.
Yeah, they'll downsize the restaurant industry, but then it will grow back with higher prices, is my prediction.
Yeah, of course. Because there's only so many ways that a business owner can respond to a cost increase like that. You either cut the staff, increase the responsibilities, on the existing staff or whatever, whichever ones you have left, or you raise your prices, or you cut the quality of the product. And with restaurants, you can only cut that so far, so you have to raise prices, right?
And I want to invite the liberty-friendly restaurant workers from New York to move here. Because every restaurant we go to has help wanted signs up everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's demand here for your services.
Yeah. My roommate, Matt, used to work in restaurants, and he says the service here is terrible generally.
He's right.
Like
That's
wouldn't
my
be
experience
hard.
as well.
If you were decent at showing up on time, it probably wouldn't be hard for you to do fine as far as
believe it.
That world is concerned. So back to the AI. This is from sfgate.com, running the drive-thru at a place in Denver. Intelligent interactive machines, once the stuff of sci-fi movies and futuristic fantasy, are quickly becoming a reality, especially in the fast food dining world where reputation rules and improvisation is limited. In restaurants around the globe, machines are already taking orders, flipping burgers, preparing pizzas, pouring stiff drinks, and cooking entire meals in full view of hungry customers. Fast food restaurants like Starbucks, Wendy's, Panera, and McDonald's encourage customers to order using self-service kiosks or their mobile app. But Valiant AI appears to be one of the first companies to create a platform for taking orders via an interactive AI voice assistant, one who also happens to be the first company representative that many customers will encounter. There's more coming up here, and you can share your thoughts on the future automation and computerization of the fast food industry. It seems inevitable at this point. You want to comment? You can. 855-450, free like freedom. It's
The Bitcoin.com wallet is a simple and powerful full-featured wallet that allows you to send and receive Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH, with anyone, anywhere in the world. It supports both single and multi-signature wallets and is available in multiple languages. The Bitcoin.com wallet is available on Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, and iOS devices. Use the Bitcoin.com wallet to buy, send, store, and receive both Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH. Learn more at wallet.bitcoin.com. That's wallet.bitcoin.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can dial in, toll free, bring up whatever you want here. We're talking about the future of fast food automation. They already have. And, I think most people knew that this was going to be a possibility, an imminent likelihood, that now in Denver at the Good Times Burgers and Frozen Custard place, you can go and go through the drive-thru, and you will not be talking to a human being. You'll be talking to a company, computer program that is going to take your order, ostensibly, and remain calm and not get all frazzled by having 50 orders to juggle all at one time. So obviously some people are going to be upset about these developments because it's likely going to mean fewer employees will be necessary at these restaurants. Initially, though, they can take that human being who would have been on the drive-thru and put them in another location in the restaurant.
Leave the stress to the kitchen trying to juggle 50 orders after they all come in at once.
Right.
Yeah, if you really want full employment, all you have to do is abolish trucks and let people carry goods from city to city on their backs.
Be careful. There's some Democrats who might actually be on board with that idea. Did you hear about this green package thing that they're proposing, where they want to literally get rid of cars?
Is that part of the Green New Deal?
Oh, they want to get rid of cars and airplanes.
Right.
So that means we're going to have high-speed rail from here to Hawaii.
And a lot of boats. Bitcoin.com, by the way, your premier source for everything Bitcoin related. You can learn about how to get a Bitcoin wallet and buy some Bitcoin and find out where you can even spend Bitcoin. Plus, read the latest news or engage with the community on the Bitcoin forum. You can go to Bitcoin.com to do that, and there's a great Bitcoin.com Academy there as well, where you can learn the basics about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin.com as we continue here, talking about the developments in the fast food business, something that a lot of Americans share in common. They may not agree on where to go get fast food, but a lot of people in this country sure do it regularly. And you're seeing more and more automation as time goes on. So back to the story here from the San Francisco Gate. Carpenter is their CEO, Rob Carpenter, the founder of Valiant AI. That's the company that has created this automated attendant. He says the assistant's conversational cadence, which sounds more like a fluid version of Amazon's Alexa, was designed to replicate human interactions with limited pauses and a menu-based script that varies depending on the exchange. In a video demonstrating its assistant, a woman's voice can be heard saying, "Hi, I'm your automated order taker. Take your time. Order when ready."
At least they're admitting it up front.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
When a man in a video asks for a breakfast burrito, the robot describes two different types of burritos and asks which one he would like. After discussing specific details of the order and asking whether he wants a drink or combo meal, the voice assistant confirms the order one last time. "Thank you. Please pull forward to the window," the voice says, concluding the interaction. Other companies are pitching similar technology to McDonald's and Taco Bell, as well as several major banks, according to TechCrunch. That's not a surprise, right?
I don't like the automated banks.
What do you mean?
Well, when I need to talk to someone at a bank, I don't like going through the automated menu.
Unlike a call when you're calling in?
Yeah. So, usually my issue is more complex than would you like to check your statement?
Right.
And what's your current balance? And what do you have outstanding? No, I have an issue, and I don't want to go to the bank.
Yeah, so, if it was trivial, I would have done it online.
Yes, right. Exactly. At this point, yes. It's not trivial. Answer the phone.
I'm curious. I mean, how many people who have a bank account these days are actually going using the phone system versus using online? I bet a bunch of kind of legacy users, older users, are still calling it in rather than opening up an online profile. Because they'll still ask you, like when you open a bank account, they'll ask you if you want online access. It's not just a given, because a lot of their customers they're not into that. But I just don't know how many.
I guess. Okay. So for the legacy customers, though, you really think people are calling their bank number and going like just to check their balance?
Some people have to, right? Like that's why that feature exists.
They don't balance their checkbook well enough.
Remember, a lot of people with technology are still doing what they were doing 30 years ago because what they were doing 30 years ago worked for them 30 years ago, and they haven't found a time in between when it hasn't worked for them.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah,
so some people change technology when technology becomes available, and some people change technology when the old technology becomes unavailable.
Yeah.
Well, then the first question...
broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
The first question on the automated thing is is automation sufficient for you? Press 1. If you'd like to speak to human immediately, press 2.
Yeah. A lot of times you can accomplish something like that by just hitting 0 at the first prompt.
Of the time.
They've learned.
But not always.
Right. There used to be a site like, get a human or find a human or something like that.
That gave you instructions for each company?
Yeah, for each company.
That's interesting.
and then the companies change it, and some of them you just can't get through at all.
Yeah. So if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And, of course, there are companies who realize that that's what their customers want.
Yes.
And they will bring you to a real human being as quickly as possible. And I think TD Bank was one of those, if I recall. Like, as far as corporate banks are concerned, they always had a less corporate feel. They've done a good job of kind of hiding how corporate they really are.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's been my experience. It's been relatively easy to get somebody on the phone at a TD Bank. But anyway, the toll-free number again here is 855-450-FREE. The technology here, in the case of fast food, arrives at a time that fast food customers are seeking even more quickness and convenience, said Carpenter. He pointed to a recent study from QSR Magazine that found that 70% of fast food restaurant sales now occur at the drive-thru window, a number that has led to an increase in traffic and wait times for food. Do y'all ever not go through the drive-thru? Like, I hardly ever order at fast food, but frequently I'll just park and go in because I have seen it where the drive-thru is actually it seems like it's a longer wait.
Yeah, depending on the line and the weather.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the respective lines. You know,
right.
They're if it looks like it's going to be quicker to go in, I go in. If it looks like the drive-thru is going to be quicker, I go through the drive-thru. But
you know, when I've been to
weather may affect that. My various states of laziness may affect that.
Arterial Salad in our chat room says drive-thru is always faster, and I can definitely say that there's some places that have it down. So when I was in Austin, Texas, the last couple of years, I always go to Chik-fil-A because there's no Chick-fil-A's here in Keene. There's one in Nashua, but that's an hour and 20 minutes.
How bad do you want that?
Arterial salad. What's that? Is
one
that
of our
what
chatters.
You eat before you have blood pie for dessert? I don't know.
No, it's one of our chatters.
He's
on the
a
Discord
vegan
server
vampire.
At discord.lrn.fm.
He's a vegan vampire?
I don't know. Just
I don't think he's. I'm pretty sure he's not a vegan.
Beet sucker. You don't find many of those.
So anyway, at the Chick-fil-A down in Austin, and I don't know how many other states have this, with their Chick-fil-A's. I'd never seen it before I went to Austin. They're so busy constantly that they actually have up to 7 employees working the parking lot, not like the drive-through lanes. They have guys with remote pads, like ordering pads, and they've got like the credit card scanner on the pad and everything. They go up to cars, like walk up to car windows and take orders from people. So there's no waiting at an order speaker at this Chick-fil-A. It's just constant giving of orders and running people through at least 2 lanes of drive-through traffic. And they almost always have cars backed out to the road, like right out to the street where you're turning into the Chick-fil-A. It's just constant.
I've been to an In-N-Out Burger like that
where they
on
just
the West
have
Coast. Yep.
a half a dozen employees outside.
Because the line is out the driveway and to the street,
right?
And they got to clear the street.
The old A&W system was nice, where you pulled in, you parked. You had sometimes a speaker that you would speak into. Sometimes a waitress would come and take your order. But the car stayed in the same place, and the food and the wait people moved.
Well, so they bring your food to your car window?
Yeah, they bring your car. They bring your food to your car, and generally people would just sit there and eat. And when they were done with their meal, they'd put a little tray actually on the that sat there on your driver's side window.
I think that's more of a drive-in.
Yeah, that's more of a drive-in. I like that better than the drive-through concept.
Like the Sonic does that too, right? Where they
Sonic
girls on roller skates.
Do they have girls on roller skates still?
At least in Florida they did. I doubt they do during the wintertime in New England.
Maybe they put them on ice skates. Just spray down the parking lot with water. That'll keep customers from getting out of their car, too.
So if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE. Maybe you work in fast food and you're seeing some of these changes come into play. And, how is it affecting things behind the counter? How is it affecting the experience of customer relations, customer service? The toll-free number if you want to join us, 855-450-FREE. Turns out that these systems may actually speed up the wait because they're just that much more efficient at taking people's orders in these lines. More on the way here at 855-450-FREE. We are here on the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live, where you can bring up whatever you want. It's Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live, live Sunday edition of the show here with you in the studio tonight. It's Ian
Beelzebub
and Richie Rich.
855-450-FREE. We're talking about technology, ordering technology being put into place in fast food restaurants. We're not seeing a rollout of AI order takers yet across major companies, but there is one company in Denver, Good Times Burgers and Frozen Custard, that has introduced an automated order-taking attendant, voice-activated, AI that they're calling that is now doing the breakfast shift there and testing that. So we can talk more about that. But let's go to BP on the line in South Carolina, listening via his iHeartRadio app. Hello, BP. What do you know? What station you're listening to over that app? Just curious.
I know I've called in and rapped with y'all guys before on free radio.
Right on.
And I enjoy listening to you.
Do you know how you're listening? I'm just curious how you're listening on
I was going to say, objection, non-responsive.
Are you even aware of which station you're listening to?
It's 94.3 WSE.
WSC, really? Okay, that's interesting. I had no idea we were still on their web stream. Good to know. So go ahead.
Okay, well, hey, there's nobody on fast food that beats Chik-fil-A. It's crazy.
Really?
Twin drive lanes, and they're all the way out to the road, and all them people with them handheld looks like they're on Star Trek or something.
Everybody beats them on Sunday.
I mean, I'm old
That's
school.
true.
I'm only 62, but I swear you're right through there in no time.
Yeah, they are hustling.
Crazy.
So what you're telling me is it's not just Austin, Texas. You're saying it's like that there in Charleston, South Carolina as well.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
All the way through the Bible Belt.
If it's noontime and you're in a hurry and you got to go, I got to get a burger or something. And I'm a beef and a pork man, not really chicken, but by golly, if I'm in a hurry, I go there.
So what you're saying is it doesn't even matter if the line's out to the street, as it frequently is at Chick-fil-A. You will still get through there faster than if you go to McDonald's or Burger King.
So fast, it's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because if if I was hungry and I saw the line out the door, I would pass right on by and find someplace faster. I know,
and when I've had time before is the only reason why I found this out. Because I'll pull in there and I go, well, I need to make a couple phone calls or something. Next thing you know, you ain't got time.
You got your food. You just barely put the order. The ordering kid walked away from the window, and then all of a sudden the food's there.
I wonder if they'll get so fast they'll be able to bring it out to the line, have the food ready before you even pull through the window.
It's crazy. I think I'm going to call my attorney on them because Chick-fil-A, for some reason here local, they've got this saying where, you take the money and they give you your receipt and you say, thank you. Oh, it's my pleasure. And that's what I always say to them. They say, it's my pleasure. It's our pleasure or whatnot. And I always say that when I open the door for a lady at a convenience store and she goes, oh, thank you. And you go, oh, it's my pleasure, ma'am.
Yeah. You're right.
It's the military man. It's the military man.
Now that you mention that, I think that may be like one of those Chick-fil-A things. It's something they have them say because I feel like I remember them saying that to me as well. So
I think it must be. I think they train. You know how these corporate folks.
Sure.
I've been
it's smart.
Before. Train
There's certain words that evoke a certain feeling.
Well, it's an old-fashioned way of saying you're welcome. Right. It's something that I would associate with like 40s or 50s World War II era.
Right.
I would expect to hear that, but maybe even, it goes way back. I mean, that would not sound strange to me in a Civil War novel either.
Maybe I misheard. I'm still trying to figure out why you would talk to an attorney about that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Where was it? Why do you have to call Saul? What's up with this? What does Saul have to do with it?
Because they stole it from me. Hey, but listen to this. I want to tell you real quick. I know.
So is this like 1940 is suing and they want their jargon back? They're not just calling anymore. They're firing up the attorney. They're calling Saul.
Yeah. Hey, I was in Orlando, Florida, 1987, and went into a Wendy's drive-thru, and got it was real busy, lunchtime and all. And the young girl at the drive-through window, I give her a 20 for like a
okay, this story is safe for radio. I just want to make sure.
This is no kidding.
Okay, because $20 would get you a lot to drive through in a Wendy's in the 80s. Yeah. I remember. I'm from the 80s. I'm an illegal alien from the 80s.
I know. Well, me too.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's hear the story.
I don't mean to ridicule you.
She told me. She goes, "Here you go, sir," and she gives me change back, and I went, "Ma'am, I give you a $200." And she looked at me and she went, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she started digging money out of
You're
the
just
cash
screwing with her.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just messing. I wasn't going to take the money. I was just, oh my God, it freaked me out.
Where are they going to come up with artificial intelligence to equal that?
See, and it's those cashiers at the window that can't count change.
Yeah. Well,
it's a high-tech world. And, you know, my daddy taught me, he had a gas station and a convenience store in North Florida, and he taught me in an old-style cash register, they had a little thing
the
up
lever?
there where you put the bill, where the guy would give you the dollar bill or the 20, and you'd put it right there, and you'd give him his change back.
Mm-hmm.
And if he said, "No, I give you a 90.
You still had it.
Right there it is.
Yeah, you still had it.
That's what you give me. Yeah, you learned that kind of. But you know, I was at a boat show a year ago, and nachos and cheese were $5. No, were $2.50. And I give the woman the young lady, a young girl. I mean, she might have been 15.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who they had working there, or high school or college. But I give her a $5 bill, and she had to use a calculator to give me back $2.50 and change.
Oh God! Thank you, BP. Great call, man. I appreciate hearing from you tonight. Thank you for the call. Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Toll free number here 855-450-FREE. It is sad. It's hard to find good help, and people they don't do math like they used to.
I was at a drive-through window with my son once, and I don't remember what the total was, but I knew how much change I wanted to get back.
Mm-hmm.
So I counted out my change in my hand, and I looked over at him. I said, "He won't get it." And so we pulled up to the window. I hand the dude like my bills and my change.
Yeah.
And he looks and goes, "Your total's only this much." And I go, "Just punch it in the computer, man." He was like, "Oh, okay." And he punched it in, and he gave me my change back. I looked over at my son, like, I told you. I told you.
Yeah.
He has no idea. He looked at it, had no idea what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just punch it in the machine, let the computer figure it out, and give me back what I know.
Was it one of those things where you wanted to get rid of your change, so you gave him?
Yeah, I gave him like some nickels and dimes to get
so
back
you just
a couple
got dollars
quarters.
back, or quarters, or whatever. Okay, yeah.
Or whatever. However,
that'll confuse them sometimes, for sure.
See,
absolutely.
that's something I like the automated tellers for.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a bunch of change, I'd just, rather than explain it to the cashier, I'd rather just stand there and feed it into one of the supermarket tellers and take bills back.
Let's talk to Greg. He's in Virginia, listening to WNIS. By the way, the phone number 855-450-FREE. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, I just had a comment on the automated order taking.
Yes, sir.
I actually think it'll be a good idea. I hate the automated telephone situation, but for fast food, I think it's more of an issue with work ethic than
you don't like automated.
No, I do like it I don't like it for the telephone, but I think it'll help speed up for like drive-thrus at fast food places.
I'm with you on that one, Greg.
Because I know I eat fast food a lot. I work late nights, and it's the only thing open late at night. So I make sure that order is just right on correct on my receipt, on the screen, and then they always find a way to mess it up.
Sure.
So I know that's human error. So no matter how accurate the order taking is, it's going to get messed up in the back if the kid's back there or not.
But it's going to make it less likely, right? Like, because if the robot gets your order correct and confirms it with you, because that's part of the script, is that the robot will go over the order before they finish it. And so you've confirmed now with the robot that you wanted a small fry and you wanted no lettuce on the burger. That's confirmed. So if it gets messed up, you know it was a human that messed up the order in the back, and it wasn't the order taker.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm thinking. I think the AI would be great for order taking, but I don't think it's going to fix the mess up, because that's all on the back end, the people making your food.
Well, we're just entering into this space. Right now, the order taker and the burger making robot are separate, but they can be welded together once they each work respectively, and then you've got a burger machine instead of a restaurant.
Yeah, basically. Hey, Greg, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate your thoughts here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We are live on Sunday night. That's 855-450-3733. Hour 2's next. You can bring up what you want. It's Free Talk Live.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're launching into the second hour of this live Sunday edition of the program. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. On the way here tonight, we can talk about what it's like to get a cell phone in a place where you never could have cell phone internet access. In Cuba, there's news about Bitcoin down in Venezuela. Americans are upset about the government with fairly large numbers. We can get into all that. Of course,
Yay!
Your calls and thoughts are also welcome here. We can talk about the prostitution sting down in Florida. Apparently, there's a warrant out now for another billionaire, not just the owner of the Patriots, but somebody else who they're trying to pick up for hiring a prostitute. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. With you in the studio here, it's Ian,
the Prince of Darkness,
and the Fed, Richie Rich.
We go to Sarah in New Mexico to start things out here. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, yes, I just want to let you know that our state is working right now to make the cigarettes illegal for 21-year-olds.
Oh, yeah, geez. I heard Virginia just did that, actually, and I think Hawaii's had that in place already.
Done it,
right?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So,
Massachusetts as well, I believe, is 21.
Terrible.
So Virginia is working on that right now. Hawaii did it already, and our state is working on it.
So how many teenagers are you willing to put in jail, Sarah?
Wait, do we know if she's for it?
Oh, she's definitely for it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, don't they just
she's
get
excited.
warnings?
Okay.
Yeah, she's not letting us know because she's disappointed. Huh? What, Sarah?
Well, you know what? Do they really? They're just going to get cited. They're just going to get ticketed. You know, I don't know how.
Yeah, but what if they don't pay the ticket?
I have no idea. I guess
you really don't know.
You really don't know? You think you can just ignore tickets and there won't be thugs with guns at your door?
Well, you know what? It's less people torturing me at the bus stop blowing secondhand smoke.
But more people torturing you with tasers as they're arresting you.
Well, she won't be arrested. She's not going to smoke.
Well, the thing is, everybody does something that somebody doesn't like.
Sure.
You know, if you pass enough laws, sooner or later they're going to outlaw you.
Well, I don't know. The less people addicted, you know, instead of me standing 20 feet away from the bus stop, maybe don't stand 20 feet away from the bus stop and smoke.
Have you considered private conveyance?
What did you say?
She doesn't know what that means.
Oh, have you considered not using the bus, since the bus, I assume, is public, and as long as everyone is paying for it?
The thing is, I have never owned a car in my life, and I do not know how to register a car because I have problems doing those kind of things.
What about an Uber or a taxi?
Look, I have no money for that.
It's cheaper to ride the bus.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
$2 for all day bus riding here in Albuquerque.
All day long.
So you just want to be able to ride the bus without that riffraff that smoke.
That's right. Yeah, that's what she's saying.
What are they doing in your world?
Well, you know what? It's going to be my world because we're going to pass that eventually. You know, Virginia, Hawaii.
It's supposed to be your world. Wow. Let's just bask in that statement for a moment.
All hell Queen Sarah.
But, I mean, most of the people that are going to be smoking at a bus stop are probably going to be over the age of 21 anyway, so is this really going to have that big of an effect?
No, but, you know, it's the whole attitude that it's it's the whole attitude. It's not cool to smoke. It's the whole,
what about
if that's
the attitude
it'll
that
take
says
care of
it's
itself.
not cool to be a busybody and control the lives of others? What do you think of that attitude?
That's not the American way.
You know what? Why do they have to tell me to stand 20 feet away where they sit right on the bus stop and blow smoke and people with oxygen?
What right do you have to tell them to stand 20 feet away?
I don't think they're telling you to stand 20 feet away.
They'll spit on you and check you. You know, and they'll do it to an elderly citizen, too.
They'll do
on
what?
Oxygen.
Do what?
Elderly citizen.
What do they do, though?
They'll eject them? Did you say?
Yeah, I didn't make that out.
Do bus stops have ejector seats now?
Okay, if you were to go up to if you're an elderly person on oxygen, if you would say, I need to sit down, could you stand 20 feet? I have to sit down. I have health problems. I want to sit here. They'll probably spit at him and check him. This is what they do at Albuquerque.
They'll what? They'll sit on him? Is that what you said? What did they? What
I thought you said spit on him.
God,
and
are they
deck him.
sitting on old people in It's all Breaking Bad. It's all that meth you're smoking down there.
The blue meth.
The blue meth. That's what makes them sit on old people and smoke.
Really? I mean, look, I get what you're saying, Sarah. There can be some rude young people on a bus. Okay, I can see that happening. But, I mean, really, most people, I would think, would request or respect the request of somebody who's obviously crippled, who's asking them, hey, I'm on oxygen. Can you, like, smoke your cigarette over there? I think. Yeah. I mean, most people are going to be decent. But what you're saying is the people in Albuquerque at bus stops that you've seen aren't very nice people?
Well, they're addicts. If they're addicted to cigarettes, they could be addicted to meth, like you said, or crack, or alcohol.
So cigarettes is a gateway
They could be
drug.
addicted to power over the lives of others. My God, wouldn't that be awful?
Sarah, thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. But tragedy of the commons, right? I mean, you've got a public bus system. They have to allow everybody onto the bus, and that means that some of the people at the bus stop are going to be a-holes.
Yep.
Yeah, well, so go on the radio. Some of your callers are going to be a-holes. Right. Listen to that one we just had.
Yeah.
I almost never am like, I don't like a caller, but
this one,
that chick just rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, get ready, because you're going to hear a lot more of her. She calls every single night.
Jesus.
Every night.
Well, I wouldn't mind having a conversation with her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have your chance.
Sweet.
I guarantee it. As long as she lives, she'll probably call this show every single night. She's the only one who's figured out she can get on national radio and just spout off whatever views that she has consistently.
We need a federal law to ban chronic callers to national radio shows.
Well, I mean, I could restrict chronic calls if I wanted to, but
there ought to be a law.
Oh, I see. You're
because she's obviously addicted, and we wouldn't want that addiction.
Oh, she could be. Maybe we shouldn't let her on the air. Maybe she's addicted to calling into the radio show.
It's for your own good.
It would be for her own good.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
really would. We should do that. Just next time she calls in, say, we think you're addicted to calling in, so we're not going to let you on the air tonight.
Or if we're compassionate, you can wean her off slowly.
Right.
So
every other day.
Yeah, something like
there
that.
There you go. Just randomly cut her off after a while. We think you're addicted.
Do it.
So if you want to join us here, you can. Phone lines are wide open. Remember, if Sarah's on the line, that's an indicator we have no one else to talk to. Everybody else will get priority over Sarah, except for a couple people. There's actually a couple callers who I'd rather have Sarah over. But,
I'd rather have Sarah than James from Arizona.
Oh, yeah. He's one of them, for sure.
Whatever
He's banned.
happened? Oh,
he's currently banned for several months because he called in the midst of his ban, so he extended his ban.
Oh, okay. So this is a self-enforced ban.
The first time he was banned, he voluntarily did not call in, and he was good about it. He didn't call in at all during his ban time frame. But the most recent time, which was like December or November, he did call in during the ban, so it extended it.
That must have taken a lot.
He's still in the chat room, though. If you feel like you miss James in Arizona,
I don't miss James from Arizona.
I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know. If you feel like you miss him, he has his own special room. It's called the Toxic User Zone on our Discord server. So if you go into discord.lrn.fm, it's for all of our toxic users, and he's really the only one, basically. Every now and then, some racist will come in, we'll throw them in there, but they leave after a while.
So he's the only one who's just messaging himself in there?
No. He's talking to people. No, everybody else can go in the room. It's just that he's restricted to that one room, so he can't go anywhere else in the server. He has to stay in that one room. And he's honestly been good about not like trying to make fake new accounts or whatever. He's stuck with it. And so there's people who go in there because they just want to get abused by James or try to convince him of the error of his ways. And so it's just constant conversations with James
or antagonizing
people, attacking verbally every single person that tries to talk to him. It's pretty entertaining. So if you feel like you want to get a little dose of James,
you think this is really who this guy is, or is this a character he plays?
Honestly,
doesn't matter.
So consistent. It seems like it's who he is.
So the guy's just a crazed parasite.
Yeah, he's really crazy.
I think as a long-term on and off listener of this program, one of the things that I liked most about it was that you just allow people on.
Yeah, anybody can call in until you start threatening people, and then we have to put some. There's some restrictions, but very, very few. 855-450 free. We told him no threatening. We gave him a few warnings, but then he kept doing it.
Use your words.
More coming up. Free Talk Live. You dial toll free if you want to join us here on this live Sunday edition of the program. Our number here is 855-450 free. That's 855-450-3733. Did you miss out on ForkFest 2018? Well, that's okay. Year number 3 is coming up right here in the summertime. We're at this point less than 4 months away from ForkFest 2019. It's June 13th through the 18th. That's the 5 days before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. So if you're coming up for both, then you're going to get, basically 10 or 11 days of hanging out in the woods with some libertarian friends. It's a pretty cool time. Highly recommend you check it out. You go to forkfest.party if you want to learn more about it. That's the unofficial website because everything with ForkFest is unofficial. There's no fee, there's no ticket, there's no central committee, there's no board of directors. Nobody gets to make a decision about who can and who can't attend ForkFest, except for the campground. The campground, if you piss them off, then you're probably not going to be able to come back. But all you have to do is get your campsite or motel room, or stay on the road at the motel down the road. It's a little bit nicer there, and come and hang out at ForkFest 2019 again, June 13th and through the 18th. It's going to be at Rogers Campground, the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. I mean, you really couldn't ask for a much more just incredibly exquisite view. It's just amazing to be there. Highly recommended. There's a forum. There's a Telegram chat room as well. You can connect to those, and that'll connect you with some of the folks who are going to be attending this year at forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. So we've been talking about automation of technology, specifically at the drive-through window, and some new tech. And I wanted to continue because we haven't gotten to the critics yet. So this story here does have critics, the people who are against the incursion of technology into the drive-through world.
Because they're stealing human jobs. That's
what it's going to come to. It's Good Times Burgers and Frozen Custard in Denver. They have implemented technology that's considered AI. I'm sure if our Friday night co-host were here, he would say this isn't actually AI. This is just, a voice prompt with programmed responses.
Yeah, it's almost certainly not a true AI system. There's very little... There isn't room for intelligence there.
Right.
That's the point. It doesn't require intelligence. It can be done by rote.
Correct. But it sounds better if you call it AI, and it's all about marketing as far as...
the part where AI probably does exist is most voice recognition systems are learning computer systems that have some aspects of AI in there.
Good point.
So that's where you would find the intelligence, but it's not an expert system making, informed decisions about menu items.
Right.
It's a learning algorithm.
Yeah.
So we're talking about this system. They're calling it Valiant AI. It's gone into place at the breakfast shift at this yogurt place, custard place or whatever in Denver. Customers, they say here, waited an average of 234 seconds for burgers and fries in 2018. This is according to a study at QSR Magazine. Compared with 225 seconds for the year prior, Wendy's holds the current record for shortest wait time on average, a blazing 116 seconds, which was set back in 2003. According to the magazine, with more vehicles creating drive-through and into traffic jams. Carpenter says his company's voice assistant was designed to increase the speed of service instead of one employee managing multiple drive-through lanes, which is often the case. He said employees can focus on preparing food and processing payment. Longer lines mean potential customers will look for another restaurant, he said. Initial tests showed about a 25% reduction in order time. said Carpenter. And with more efficiency comes more profitability, he said. And with more profitability comes more locations and jobs. Carpenter remains adamant his robotic worker will not cost people their jobs.
Yeah, more locations and jobs for more automated systems.
Yeah. I don't buy. Do you think he really believes this? Do you think he really believes when he says that he believes this isn't going to hurt jobs?
Well, it may well be true. I mean, the Luddites, the whole concept of the Luddite incident in I believe it was 1700s Paris or 1800s Paris, when they introduced the automated textile machines, and the Luddites, who were the people who operated the existing textile machines, said, "Oh no, we're all going to lose our jobs to automation." Mm-hmm. Well, what happened is the cost of clothing fell dramatically. Sure. And at that time, most people would have a suit that they would wear 6 days out of the week, and then they'd have a Sunday
suit. Can you imagine
suit.
How that would smell?
It couldn't have been pretty. Well, what happened when clothing got cheap? All of a sudden, people started having a closet full of clothes.
Right.
And employment in the textile industry actually increased because more machines were needed and more people were needed to
run the machines.
So basically, it was a win-win situation for both customers who got to not have to wear the same stuff 6 days a week, and the producers who ended up having more jobs available to them and higher paying jobs available to them.
But is that going to be true in the case of fast food, where it seems like McDonald's is in every place it could possibly be, and like how much more could they expand?
I'm kind of a callous individual.
Well, I mean, if you didn't have to have actual people working there, if a McDonald's was just a box with a refrigerated container of meat.
Well, that's what they're working towards.
Well, yeah, right? It is. But that means you could have many more of them.
Sure, but the claim by this guy is that it's going to not affect jobs. Now, what were you going to say about your callous?
I'm kind of a callous individual, because when it comes to, unless we're going to have the minimum wage debate, right? Mm-hmm. If it doesn't create more jobs, who cares and why, right? Like, all these people are upset that, low-skilled minimum wage people won't have jobs afterwards. I'm like, well, they'll have to figure something out, right? I mean,
sure.
they can go get better training. They can go do something else. And if you
that's what people with initiative would do, but other people will just whine and go and get on welfare.
Well, the other thing is there are limited jobs. There is limited accumulation of property, and there is one basic human right which is violated every day in the United States, and there are many human rights violated every day in the United States, but the one we don't talk about is the Lockean Proviso, which talks about our right to appropriate land for our personal use. That's our right to private property, so long as there is as much and as good available for others to homestead. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get rid of this fear that all the jobs will be taken, then all you have to do is open up homesteading, because then anybody who wants a job can go take a piece of land.
So like open up the government land for homesteading?
Open up the government land and stop subsidizing the cost of holding massive amounts of land. Mm-hmm. If you're the government should not be basically dumping protection services on the market, so that it costs a bunch of money to defend this land and a bunch of money to jail trespassers, but that money is paid for by the taxes that homeless people pay on their coffee. Okay, that's not a good thing.
Well, like Ian said, even homesteading a parcel of land is going to take some initiative.
Well, yes, it is going to take initiative, but it gives people who have initiative a place to go. If you have initiative and you have nothing to do with your initiative, you have no opportunity, then your initiative will die on the vine, and that's when you start doing heroin.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's certainly the truth. If people are stopped at every turn from creating something in the marketplace, they'll give up. They'll give up.
And they'll start taking.
Yep. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. And so, get rid of, allow homesteading, but also repeal regulations, local controls, licensing, all that. More on the way here. This is Free Talk Live. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. This is Free Talk Live, and it's the live Sunday edition of the program. We've been talking about automation, technology, and the future of the fast food business specifically, but it's also affecting other businesses like banking and elsewhere. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Satan,
and Richie Rich.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. But we also have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. That's where you can go to sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. We're going to get to one of those calls here in a moment. You can join the Discord server over at discord.lrn.fm. You can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners there before, during, and after the show. There are frequently folks in there in the middle of the night. It's really kind of an international server. We have people from as far away as Australia that are in there. So if it's 5 a.m. here, it's like the afternoon there. So they're in our chat room. So check it out over at discord.lrn.fm as we go to Doug. He's in Virginia, listening in Virginia Beach to WNIS. Hello, Doug.
How are you tonight?
Hey, you're on the air. Doing great.
I was just going to make a point with the artificial intelligence ordering at the burger facility.
Yes, sir.
That's not new to the market, because back in the 40s and 50s, they used to use the vending cafeterias where you put a quarter and you got a slice of apple pie.
The Automat.
Dealing with
Yeah.
Right. You dealt with the machine. It's not new. It's like you say, it kept somebody maintained the machine.
Right. They had the chef. They had the guy cooking the food, and then the machine was allowing people to purchase.
That's correct. I think the same thing now. It's the development stage. It's robotic and auto industry took away the assembly line. So I mean, progress is one thing, and the jobs are always created, even though others are lost.
Of course.
I mean, and then like perfect example is the farming industry. Is only 2% of the population handles all the farming industry in the United States, which is back in the day. I mean, people had to pick the fields, and everything. And
you've got a story about that tonight, Richie. People picking cotton.
Oh my goodness! If we get into it,
the children.
Tell us about these cotton picking people.
Pull it up if you get
a
chance.
Okay, ready.
But yeah, you're right about that, Doug. People are always afraid of the sort of the march of development and production, and it's definitely true that while some jobs are eliminated, there are always new ones that are created, and people just don't understand that. They're afraid of the first part, and they don't realize that the other part comes along.
Well, the other thing is, jobs are not what people need. People need a place to lay their heads. They need food. They need medical care, but they don't need jobs per se. They need to be able to create something of value to trade.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be a job working for somebody else.
Yeah, that's the worst arrangement.
I think a lot of the world can be saved by agorism.
Which is? Define that.
Well, agorism, I guess let's start with counter-economic activity. Counter-economic activity is providing goods or services to your neighbors outside of any licensing from the government. And agorism is counter-economic activity which is performed for a political purpose. So in other words, agorism is a combination of counter-economic activity and promotion of counter-economic activity.
Bartering.
Doesn't have to be barter.
Barter can be part of it, but it doesn't have to be barter. But it's, barter is certainly the thing that barter does is it allows you to trade where you don't have money if you have something else of value. So that's certainly nice.
Well, what the key is people doing things without asking for permission, because it's that step of asking for permission, getting in the government involved in your life and your business, that is one of those things that dissuades people from pursuing whatever it is that they're called to do. So if somebody has a dream, something they want to create, a business that they want to do, and then government gets in the way and says, nope, you got to pay this fee over here and get this license, you got to stand in line, you got to wait, you got to apply lie, you've got to beg, and most people at some point are going to be like, this is crazy, I can't handle this, all the rules, all the restrictions, and they're going to just give up. And then they'll just go work for somebody for the rest of their lives, and they'll never truly get to do the thing that was their calling. And that's tragic.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the corporate overlords who run the government want, and what they use the government to enforce. So if we go outside that structure, and not all agorism is selling weed. A big part of it is selling food, selling staples, selling your neighbors things that they need to get by, or things that they want to get by.
I've given a massage for money just to say I've done it.
Very nice.
Unlicensed.
I want to make sure you have a chance to get your thoughts out, Doug. Go ahead.
Yeah, the underground economy too. If you look at that, I mean, underground economy is $1 trillion industry, but never taxed. I mean, people selling online on personal notices, on Let's Go, that site, and Let It Go, and there's all these sites now that are allowing you to sell things. eBay is profit, but there are other sites that we have in my area. We have a trading post where you post it, sell it, and you can make money on it. You picked it up at a garage sale for $1 and sold it for $3 on online. You made a profit.
Right, and nobody's reporting that stuff to the government, and they shouldn't be. Everybody wants to keep as much off the books as they possibly can.
I agree with you 100%. Yes, and as I'm saying, that's the way to subsidize your income on a fair basis.
Right, and you're only working for yourself. You're not working for somebody else, so your efforts aren't just going primarily to enrich another person. You're enriching your customers by offering them a good product, a good service at a fair value, and then you are rewarded for that, and that's the way it ought to be. Although if you look at the average business and you look at the percentage of their revenue that's paid out in payroll, it's significant. Well, it's very significant. Yeah. Like usually over 2/3, frequently 90% of a business's take in is paid out in payroll. Like 6% is considered a pretty good return on investment in most industries. Doug, thanks for calling. Go ahead if you got one more thought. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, ExxonMobil is a perfect example of what he's talking about. Expenses. They said ExxonMobil made a record $145 billion this year, but it cost them $125 billion to make $145 billion. So the $20 billion profit, at 8% or 9% of their profit. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, that should clearly go back to the workers, the people that actually did the labor.
Shareholders.
Doug, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number, if you want to join us here, is 855-450-FREE. And since you sounded serious when you said that, I'm going to go ahead and refute you, even though I know you're full of it. Yeah. The question is then, why does the guy who supplied the steel supply the steel if all the revenues are going to the workers? Why is the guy who brought the tools going to bring the tools? Why is the guy who brought the capital going to bring the capital? And the answer is he's not. So if you want the workers to have all of the workers don't have the capital. They don't own the capital in that case. And the other thing is that implies that the workers are going to bear the losses because there's nobody else to bear the losses when a business fails. And can your average worker actually absorb that? Well, the answer is probably not. No, a lot of them are working paycheck to paycheck. They probably don't have any significant savings. Exactly. So one of the things that the capitalist is doing is he's providing the cushion to make sure that even if the business you work for goes out of business, maybe you don't get your last paycheck, but you've been paid every week that you've been working. The owner's obviously been losing his shirt.
So to somewhat answer your question, Rich, I've been known to answer friends who ask me because I have a regular job, right? I'm one of those employees, and friend goes like, well, why do you do that? Because I can't grow my own food, right? Like I have to do what I'm skilled at doing to get the money to buy the food, because otherwise, you're looking at barter or farming or whatever. And
depending on your skills, some things are easier to sell on the black market than others.
And they could be, right? And like I said, I've done some what I'll call agorism, buying my underage friends beer and cigarettes, right, and then taking a commission on it. because, well, hey, they can't do it themselves, and I have no problem with that.
That was my first job in like 7th grade, but go ahead.
Oh, no.
And you did all that way beyond the statute of limitations. It's expired, just in case anyone's listening.
Let them go.
Yeah, the toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We can talk more about creating wealth outside of the government structure, more about automation systems. Your calls and thoughts are also welcome here at 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live. Plus, maybe we'll talk about Bitcoin coming up as well. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Dial in, toll free, and bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Satan.
And Richie Rich.
We continue, and we'll take your calls and thoughts. But I do want to let you know about the AMP program and thank Dunker for being a Free Talk Live Platinum amplifier. Not only that, he's also a mover to New Hampshire, so that's like double awesome. But yeah, he's a longtime supporter of this program. Platinum, meaning he does $25 a month, way above and beyond the request. We ask for $5. He's doing $25, so really appreciate that. But you can join the AMP program for $5 a month. You can use credit card, you can use PayPal, you can use Bitcoin, BTC, and you will get some access to some perks, some benefits that the average user doesn't get. Now, we give away pretty much everything on the site for free. So, webcam, archives, all that stuff is free. If you want to help us, for instance, grow the show and get on more radio stations, we've got 194 stations today. We can get more, and in fact, I might be adding a couple new ones here this week, so that's exciting, and it's because of the AMP program that helps make that possible. So again, you can help us out and help spread the ideas of liberty and freedom and peace and cryptocurrency. Just join the AMP program at amp.freetalklive.com, as Free Market Penguin has done as well on the line on our Discord server. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I didn't plan on calling tonight, but Rich Paul, you all of a sudden just started speaking my language. I mean, you're talking about one thing. I've been wanting to know what Proviso Lockean Proviso is, but man, that is totally it. That distills my libertarianism, my anarchist thought. That's really the reason that I'm into this whole thing is the fact that we have the land and property is monopolized, so we are forced to get these jobs. We are forced to work for a wage labor, and it's not that wage labor is theft or anything. It's that we don't have the option to subside any other way, and until we do, we don't have anything near a voluntary society.
Yes. Yeah. And in order to have, I can't imagine any voluntary society, because in a voluntary society, anybody who claims ownership of land, they're going to have to defend that claim. If they don't pay out of their own pocket to defend that claim, then somebody else is going to go live on that land. And, there's nothing they can really do to stop them. They have to be able to.
You mean like hire guards?
Yeah, you have to be able to muster the money to pay for the violence. Now, in terms of a modest home, one guy, the occupant with a shotgun is probably sufficient. But if you want to keep people off huge areas of land, then that's going to require a lot of force to go chase poachers and go chase all of the things that the sheriff of Nottingham did. That was basically his job.
It would be tremendously expensive to fund that individually.
Oh, absolutely, especially because you do not have the backup of this unstoppable force, which is the United States government, where, if you whack somebody from Acme Protective Services and then blow state, it may well be that you'll get away with it.
So what you're saying is
not a coordinated government after you.
If homesteading were possible, then people would only acquire the amount of property that they could afford to protect, rather than these huge swaths of land that they currently can utilize.
Exactly. And this is especially an issue in New Hampshire when you have the current use exemption on property taxes, where they specifically say, why don't you take huge hunks of property, claim them as your own, place them in current use, pay a fraction of what the property taxes would normally be, and just let people hunt on it and hike across it, but not live on it. Well, that's not really providing a service to the homeless guy whose coffee is whose coffee tax is paying the additional cost of defending that land from him, from the homeless guy who's buying the coffee.
Exactly. That's another thing that you said, man. It's like Walmart has billions upon billions of dollars of property that are defended by the state. And it is the poorest among us that pay the highest percentage of what we have, by percentage to support those property rights in many cases.
Taxes disproportionately affect the poor.
Slaves.
I mean, if you're going to have taxation, I really think the fair tax would be the way to go. But just because that's something that is it's very broad based, and it's something that you don't really have to the government doesn't have to be aware of everybody that exists. It only has to be aware of businesses. And actually, you could do it without violating rights by only saying that corporations have to pay it. Because
the government has provided the corporation in the first place. You mean?
Exactly. The government creates the corporation, so the government can control the terms under which the corporation may exist. Corporations are probably the only things that can be taxed without theft.
I don't think the concept of corporations would be eliminated in a voluntary society.
I think the concept of corporations as we know them, limited liability corporations, would cease to exist, but I think that joint stock companies, as Adam Smith described, would continue to exist. And the difference
meaning where people can hold shares in a larger concept.
Exactly. That was a shareholder-owned company or an investor-owned company, but it did not have limited liability. So investors who made money off a company that was later determined to be fraudulent, the king could go in and claw back some of those profits from that fraudulent company. Maybe the company is bankrupt, but it's paid out millions of dollars in profits to shareholders. Well, the question is, why shouldn't the government or whoever the mediator is be able to claw back profits from investors? So limited liability literally exists. And my business law class that I took a couple of years ago when I went back to college made no bones about this. Limited liability exists in order to allow people to escape liability for their acts. Yep. And I see no reason to do that.
I agree
with that. But I still think, like you said, shareholder corporations or companies where multiple people own the business would still exist.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that.
And I think you'll still run into the problem is if they are found to be fraudulent, how do individuals go after individual shareholders when there's could be hundreds or thousands of them, owning stakes in the corporation?
Well, they wouldn't be guilty of fraud. The shareholders probably wouldn't have known about the fraud, so therefore, if you don't know about it, then it's not actually fraud in that case. If the person who's conducting
it might not even be fraud. It might be a matter of you backed your truck over a little old lady for your garbage business.
But the shareholder didn't do that.
Well, the shareholder didn't do that. But if the company is found liable and the company doesn't have any money because it already gave the money to the investor, then I don't have a problem taking money back from the investor and saying,
that's a complicated thing to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what Richie's saying here is if you've got thousands of, tens of thousands of people who all hold a little piece of that, I mean, it's cost prohibitive to go after those people.
It could well be, and I don't know how that would act.
There would have to be some sort of bankruptcy insurance in that case.
I think that there would probably be shareholder insurance available, but then shareholder insurance would have to be predicated on actual business practices. So I would imagine that the cost of shareholder insurance could be changed by altering the business practices of the company. So basically what you've got is the insurance people then watching what the company is doing and seeing how likely are they to generate massive hunks of liability.
Yep.
which it's good to have somebody asking themselves that question if the corporate management isn't doing that effectively.
Free Market Penguin, other thoughts? Go ahead.
Not really. The absentee ownership question is, complicated. I think it's definitely problematic in a free market, but it's not something to say, something would or wouldn't exist in a whole giant world that we live in. It's a big place. So,
well, a lot of things would exist, and it just depends on what the people believe, right? That's what manifests into reality.
Yeah, I think mindset is a big issue across the board.
The whole world,
Thanks for the call tonight, Free Market Penguin. I appreciate it. What was that, Richie?
I think mindset is a big issue across the board. Whenever we're discussing theories and philosophies or how things could be, even going back to the, what does it mean to be an employee or, a waged laborer or anything like that. I think people forget the concept of mutually beneficial exchange, even when it comes to that level, right? As an employee, I'm trading value for value when I get my paycheck. I do the labor. Yeah, right. my labor, my time for the paycheck. And it's equal value. Otherwise, you wouldn't enter into that agreement.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE like freedom. Whether you want to talk about working or whatever's on your mind. Goes here. Coming up, Hour 3 is on the way. Live Sunday show. It's Free Talk Live. LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm. It is Free Talk Live, live Sunday edition of the program. You can dial in toll-free, take control of the airwaves, bring up whatever's on your mind. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, is the cassette making a comeback? It's a ridiculous news story coming out of The Guardian we can share with you. But in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Rich Paul,
and Richie Rich.
We go to the phones and to your calls and thoughts. It's Parker to start things out in Washington State. Parker, you're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Not a whole lot. I have an idea for sort of creating the second Ron Paul moment.
The second? Weren't there already 3 Ron Paul moments? There was 1988 when he ran for president as a Libertarian. There was 2008 when he ran as a Republican, and then 2012 as a Republican. What else do you want him to do?
Paul.
What are you proposing?
Wouldn't the 2008 and the 2012 be sort of lumped into the same moments then, technically?
I mean, you can look at history however you want.
I would call them like 2 different moments 4 years apart.
Yeah,
okay,
I would just call it the next Ron Paul moment.
Ron Paul moment then.
All right.
In this case, Ron Paul, he's retired. He's not going to be getting back on the campaign trail.
Probably not. Yeah.
Nor would it be wise for him to do so. What with he's getting up there in his years.
Yeah, he's in his 80s.
But
still fit as a fiddle.
Yeah, he's still bicycles and runs, I think, or he does some kind of fitness stuff.
Helps being a doctor.
Good.
Oh, yeah, he's in great shape.
Well, here's what I propose
83 years old.
For the 2020 campaign.
Okay.
I propose that we start a new Ron Paul revolution this year during the 2020 campaign. My plan is a simple one. We need a voluntarist to run on a platform that government is nothing less than an organized crime syndicate, which runs roughshod over people's lives, that he or she has neither the intention nor the desire to win political office, and if he or she does win, that he or that they will not take the oath of office.
So
see, that to me is an absolute absurdity. I'm going to win a race, have the opportunity to maybe dismantle or at least obstruct the growth of government, and instead I'm going to say, no, I won't take the office. No. I'm going to take that office, and I'm going to disrupt any body upon which I am seated and dismantle any organization under which I am given power.
Look, Rich, I'm going to play on Parker's side on this one. I'm going to hold you to the.
You can't say devil's advocate after the rest of the show.
Well, you wouldn't be a voluntarian if you take office.
But look,
be a voluntarian.
So I happen to agree with Parker on this one. I have said that if I were to win the offices for which I've been running here in New Hampshire, I would not be able to swear the oath because an oath to me it means something, and I can't swear an oath of allegiance to the United States.
Neither would Roger Paxton. You wouldn't be able to take.
Sure, you can. You're swearing an oth of allegiance to an organization that doesn't exist, by which act the usurper organization, and you can tell it's not actually the federal government because the federal government is described in the Constitution, and the organization they're talking about doesn't look a bit like that. Exactly.
But what about the state of New Hampshire?
If it's okay to pick up a gun and shoot people in order to win your freedom, it's okay to take an oath to an illegitimate organization that doesn't actually exist and then turn around and dismantle that. Well, that's okay. They'll probably think you're a bad person, but you're dismantling their government. They're going to think that anyway.
Well, you said it's thieves and liars
what you are
anyway.
Doing is,
so you don't owe them anything.
If you do take the oath of office and you do take said office, you are essentially joining an organized crime syndicate. And so you are becoming one of them.
Well, the same thing could be said of an FBI agent that infiltrates an actual organized crime syndicate. But if his intention in doing that is to dismantle the thing and not to actually further its interests or make it money, then what he's doing is somewhat different. Same thing about being an anarchist and staying in the military so that if and when the revolution comes, you'll have an opportunity to monkey wrench things. I certainly hope there are people in the military who are thinking that.
We can continue to parse this out. There's more to my proposition.
Oh, yeah. How did Ron Paul come into play in this? So you say
Ron Paul light.
A candidate should pledge to not take the oath. And now go ahead with the rest of your pitch.
Which Ron Paul did not do.
Yeah, he took the oath.
Okay, well, but this would be similar to a Ron Paul moment, but not the same as. So different term then. Let's call it.
And as Richie Rich pointed out, you are basically describing the Adam Kokesh campaign, although I think he would swear the oath because he would probably do that.
This is different because Adam Kokesh actually wants to take the office.
But he says it's not president. He's running for not president, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
No, you can't run for not president.
Sure he can. He is.
Yes, he can.
You can't tell him what to do.
Kokesh can do just about anything.
All right, well, whatever. Anyway.
Go ahead with the rest of the pitch. Make it quick.
The individual should discourage people from political voting entirely, and it gives legitimacy to the illegitimate system.
No, it doesn't.
The goal is not
this is frequently the refrain of the anti-voter, and it doesn't give legitimacy. What gives the system legitimacy is people's belief in it and their obedience to it, not whether or not they show up at a poll.
Voting does.
No, it doesn't. You can watch the various different elections where 0% will turn out. Every now and then it happens in like small towns or whatever where not even the candidates themselves will actually go and vote for themselves, where actually 0% turn out to vote. But yet there are provisions in place that will go ahead and name somebody. Somebody will get chosen for that office. There are ways.
Coin tosses, guy or a cat.
There's coin tosses.
In a federal election, if nobody voted for president, literally, then the Electoral College would be I don't know who would go to the Electoral College exactly, but I know that somebody would go, and it would probably come down to a coin toss.
They have some provision, drawing straws or whatever.
And then they would vote. And even if the Electoral College never voted, then it would go to the Congress to select the president. There's all kinds of provisions. Not voting is not going to stop them.
No.
The other thing is it's not rational to expect government employees to stop voting.
Correct.
So basically, if you stop voting, what you do is you hand over control
To
of
the
the
government.
government to its own
That's right.
employees.
Yep.
Who are going to pursue their interests, not yours.
That's absolutely true. But that's why it's very rare that you'll find a 0% election. But whenever you do, you always see that somebody gets the office and the government continues because those people who didn't vote still pay taxes and they still go and they obey the government licensing laws and restrictions and obedience.
But do you remember in Florida when they elected a libertarian majority to one of the mud boards? Well, we called them mud boards. They were actually called soil and water conservation boards. But,
Did
mix
they
it
abolish
together,
the mud?
it's water. They did. They disbanded the thing. It was, I think it was Seminole County.
Interesting.
Parker, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. Parker's always got these pie-in-the-sky ideas about how, we can change everything. And
I want to be on his side. It just, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Because at one point, I'm not a big fan of political activism.
No, you're an anarchist.
Right.
You have a show. You've got a show. What's it called?
The Anarchist Experience.
And where do people go to download
AnarchistExperience.com.
All right.
See, I'm an anarchist, and I'm definitely a fan of political activism.
But his idea was to run a candidate, refuse to take the oath of office, and then promote not voting, which means the candidate, if everyone listened to him, would still lose.
Sure.
And it wouldn't matter that they.
But the thing
take
is,
the oath.
any plan that requires everyone to do a thing is a failure from the get-go because everyone's not going to do that thing at any point. There are always going to be people who disagree with you, especially, as you pointed out, Rich, the government employees themselves who have an incentive to continue voting and continue perpetuating that system. So this whole let's get everybody to not vote plan, it's dead from the word go. It might make you feel all principled to talk about, but there's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live Sunday edition here. We'll take your calls and thoughts about whatever you want. Our number is 855-450 free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you tonight, Ian,
Rich Paul,
and Richie Rich.
And don't forget, we've got video clips of Free Talk Live that Eric Freerock has come out of retirement and is making for us. He's actually putting them up on his own YouTube channel, which is called Liberty Bits. You can subscribe easily by going to clips.freetalklive.com, and he's been doing like 2 or 3 clips a day of our show, so it's an easier way to share maybe a segment or two, something we were talking about. You want to share that with your friends or family on your social media, share one of the video clips. That way you don't have to give them a whole 2-hour-long show and be like, oh, yeah, you got to tune to 38 minutes in or whatever. It's just right there in video form. It's easy to share. So check out clips.freetalklive.com to do that. And also, if you're following us on social media, the clips are being auto-posted to our Twitter, our Mastodon, and Telegram channel. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's twitter.freetalklive.com. Mastodon is toot.freetalklive.com. That's a decentralized competitor to Twitter. It's very, very cool. And then also telegram.freetalklive.com.
So how does Mastodon work?
Very well.
I guess that's a sufficient answer for this audience. I'll ask you again after the show.
It works like Twitter. So if you're familiar with Twitter, it's like that with the hashtags and the @ symbols.
Yeah, but Twitter is centralized, so it must work differently to be decentralized.
To the user, it works like Twitter.
Is it on a blockchain?
No, blockchains are inefficient, so you wouldn't want to put it on a blockchain.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
It's decentralized and federated, which means that there are thousands of servers that can connect to one another. So I'm on the Liberdon server, which is the libertarian server. The default one for Mastodon, made by the Mastodon programmers, is based in Europe, and it's very restrictive as far as its free speech. It doesn't have it, basically. There's no free speech.
Well, it can't have it in Germany.
Exactly. It's Germany and France, actually. Their regulations are what control the main server. So there's thousands of other servers that you can join, and then each server admin gets to decide who to federate with. So do you want to not federate with the Nazis? Probably a good idea. You can disconnect from them. You can disconnect from the servers that you don't want to be associated with, basically. So each server admin gets to decide their own policies about what's allowed and what's not.
And that would filter out the content. So
that's more or less the same model that Usenet would use.
Yeah, you can look at it that way, except it's much more user-friendly than Usenet.
Right. Well, I loved Usenet back in the day.
But You and I were around back in the day when, that was a thing. True. Usenet's still there. You can still get on Usenet.
Yeah, but Usenet isn't Usenet anymore when it's not like 90% written by PhDs, which
What's
is...
that? PhD? What is that?
PhD.
Oh, PhD. I'm sorry. I thought you said PhD.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I stuttered a little bit, but yeah, I was trying to say PhD, and the intellectual content of Usenet went down the tubes when Al Gore said he was going to build an information superhighway, and people discovered that the internet had existed since the 60s.
Do we need an FTL IRC chat room?
We had one.
I know.
It's still there.
Okay.
For LRN.FM. That's actually what we had before the Discord server. So that still exists, but I don't think anybody's been in it for a long time in any meaningful fashion. It just kind of became a troll zone.
Or a Yahoo group.
For a while. Yahoo groups. Yeah, that goes back, huh? No, nobody has a Yahoo group anymore. I mean, at least nobody I know is using that.
No mailing list?
Yeah, there is actually a mailing list.
That would be smart.
You can sign up for emails from Free Talk Live. We do them on a weekly basis. You can go to freetalklive.com. The email is the email box is right there on the front page of the website. So.
It's almost as old as cassette tapes.
But you know what? If you want to reach people, email's still a good way to do it.
That's true.
It's still a good way because you're not being moderated by any algorithm on some social media site that wants to not have you reach the people that you want to reach. So let's go back to the phones, to the fun. We got Larry. He's in Charleston, South Carolina, listening to WTMA. Hello, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
First of all, you both recognize that we are taxed into nearly tax slavery.
Sure. I think all three of us recognize that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And, however, one of the things that I've paid a lot of attention to and know quite a bit about is that is the concept of the fair tax, which is I don't know what tax is fair.
Yeah,
but
there's no such thing.
Zero.
It's a consumption tax, and in the alliteration of the fair of the consumption tax, they want to tax people.
You might have been consuming a little bit tonight, huh? Just saying.
23%.
23% alcohol?
Which is
sorry.
Sir,
go ahead.
Excuse me?
Okay, don't bust his balls. He's getting there.
23% is a fair tax for consumption.
Give me a break here.
Okay.
I'm okay. Go ahead. The idea is they want to charge a 23% tax, and however, I believe that it would be more reasonable to charge a 15% tax, because 15% of our national gross domestic product is $15 trillion. No, it's $20 trillion. And 15% of $20 trillion is $3 trillion, which is the amount of money.
I was wondering.
Come on, buddies. Don't do me like that.
Was that a sound effect?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And my numbers,
I didn't mean to out you, bro.
My numbers are dead on.
Look, Larry, here's what I have to say about the tax that you're referring to. I remember years ago on Free Talk Live, we interviewed one of the so-called fair tax people for like an hour and a half. But we hardly ever do interviews on Free Talk Live, but this was one of the ones we did. And we got into it deep. Right. And, of course, the claim is, and they've been pushing this thing for decades now. It's been a couple decades that they've been trying to do something with this, and it's never gone anywhere. But the proposal that they make is that it should be 23 to 29% is usually the higher end that they'll mention.
Wait, give me a break here.
No, I'm not. Hold on. You brought this thing up, and I'm going to explain my opinion at the very least about it, and then you guys are certainly free to weigh in here. But the proposal, as I recall them making it, was usually 23 to 29%, so they don't know what it's going to end up being. And they also claim that they think they can get rid of the IRS, but that's not always part of the proposal. It's not necessarily going to be the case that the so-called fair tax will go into place and that they'll abolish the IRS at the same time. It's much more likely that the IRS will stay in place. Maybe they'll roll back some of the...
what do you mean by the IRS existing? Do you mean the IRS will continue to be the name of the organization that administers the fair tax?
No, that the income tax will stay.
Saying that the income tax would exist?
That the income tax will stay. Now, it may not stay as is. They might roll it. Remember how they started the tax back when it was only going to be on rich people, and then they expanded it to include, a wider range? Well, so then maybe they'll roll it back a little bit, and they'll say, see, it won't apply to most people. We're just going to tax the rich.
See, the fair tax proposal itself has a whole list of taxes that it would replace.
But that's not going to happen.
Designed to be
that's never going to happen.
Well, the caller was talking about a consumption tax as a fair tax as well.
That's what the proposal is. It's a national sales tax.
Consumption tax.
It's a national
sales tax. It's a consumption tax.
What's the difference?
Difference is sales tax covers used goods. Consumption tax does not. Consumption tax covers services. Sales tax does not.
There's more coming up here at 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live. Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever's on your mind by dialing toll-free. Our number is 855-450-FREE, live Sunday edition of the show. With you tonight, you've got Ian,
Rich Paul,
and Richie Rich.
855-450-FREE as we continue here. We've been talking about technology in the workplace, and that's resulted in conversations about everything from the minimum wage to the fair tax, government regulations, and so on. I haven't really gotten to any other show prep, which is fine. We don't mind that, especially when you guys are participating on the phones, as you are. So we're going to go and continue with your calls and thoughts here. E. Greg is on the line on our Discord server. E. Greg, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey.
Hey.
I was wondering, did you guys ever talk about Andrew Yang, who's running for president? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Interesting. Okay, he's a Chinese American. He's out of New York City, and his whole platform is about UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, let's hear it.
Sure. Well, basically, he's recognizing the effect that technology is having on workers, kind of what you guys are talking about. Truck driving, for example, 70 million people, I think, are drivers. And there's going to be self-driving cars. There's going to be self-driving trucks on the road. A lot of the jobs are going to be either replaced or one person will be able to do the job of many people.
What will those truck drivers do?
Something else,
and they should be able to have a safety net to be able to switch their job, to go to school, and to invest, maybe even raise their children, and spend time with their children.
Okay, so do you believe that everybody who is born should be subject to this safety net?
Everyone who is born?
Yes.
As opposed to people who are not born?
Do you believe that all people should receive this safety net payment, and basically their survival should be ensured?
Well, me personally, I think so. But Andrew's platform is only for adults. It is not for children.
Okay, that's actually an interesting modification, and it does address one of the complaints, which is If it's paid out to children, then that would encourage parents to have more children in order to get more UBI.
Like
so
welfare?
That's exactly how welfare works, and that's one of the reasons that I think a modified UBI like you're describing in Yang, why I think it would be better than the existing welfare system in almost exactly the same ways that I think the fair tax would be better than the existing taxation system, because it is simpler, it's streamlined, it doesn't reward nonsense.
But would either of these proposals come into play with the other stuff being wiped out, right? Because the fair tax supposedly is going to get rid of the IRS, but the politicians aren't likely going to follow through with that, so you're going to end up with both.
That is part of the fair tax proposal, so if it doesn't include the repeal, then it's no longer the fair tax, in my opinion.
But then you might end up with a national sales tax or consumption tax, as you described it earlier, and an income tax on top of that. And same thing with the UBI. Tax. You may end up with a UBI and welfare on top.
You might, in which case you've just, the other nice thing about the fair tax is that agorists can evade it completely and effectively, which makes it much nicer than the just don't collect it. Don't register your business.
It's right there on Main Street. They're going to find you.
Somebody's
going to report
maybe
you.
Maybe your business isn't going to be on Main Street.
Is going to report you, and they're going to investigate you, just like the IRS investigates people now. Like I was saying, if I'm opening up a store and you're saying it's a consumption tax, so therefore, if it's a used item, I don't have to collect it. All of a sudden, all my items are used. You think they're not going to have a problem with that?
I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think it's a matter of whether the item is new or used. I think the item is the question is
someone have to charge 23% on my thrift store?
No, because they would. I don't think declaring it used would work, because I think that what they want is that the tax gets paid on every item once. So it is paid on first consumer sale. Is the technical term, and I've been reaching for that term through this whole show, and I finally came up. First consumer sale. So your thrift shop would not be subject to it. When you bought a car new off the lot, that would be subject to it. But when you resold that car, it would not be subject to the fair tax.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does the fair tax, the biggest component of that is a value-added tax on items sold?
It's not a value-added tax, and the difference is a value-added tax is paid by every company in the supply chain. Supply chain. So you buy your inputs, you sell your outputs, and you pay your value-added tax on the difference between the value of your inputs and your outputs. And that's not how the fair tax works.
But to come back to the UBI, the Universal Basic Income proposal here, that there's various proposals that keep getting made. The fair tax had an element of that as well. If you recall, the fair tax, one of the most egregious portions of it, even if it were put in the way that you had said that they wanted to propose it, Rich, was to say to get rid of the IRS and replace it with this so-called fair tax across the board, this national sales tax. It would also have what they had a term for it, the prebate, where they would basically send out a welfare check to every individual. I got to turn you down there, Greg. It sounds like you're turning up something in the background, so we'll get right back to you. But anyway, so this prebate would go out to every person who was a tax-paying person, essentially, and I don't know if it included children or not. I don't recall that detail, but every single person would get a monthly check from the government, and that's what this UBI proposal is as well, is that everybody gets a monthly check, and there's a serious danger in getting people hooked on government checks like that. Don't you agree?
There could be, certainly. Are you asking me or the caller?
You.
Are you asking me?
Rich Paul.
There certainly is that danger, and there certainly is
entitlement. It creates an entitlement mentality.
It does to some extent, but it's similar to the argument for the flat tax, which is if there's going to be a tax everybody at the same rate. And the fair tax, of course, does have it is a flat tax. The intention of the prebate and the amount of the prebate you really have to understand in order to understand why it's there. And the amount of the prebate is the amount that you would pay in taxes if your level of consumption was equal to the poverty level. So that's like your first $18,000 or something, or maybe $12,000. Let's say your first $1,000 a month, because I'm pulling numbers out of my butt, so I might as well pull a round one out. It won't hurt as much. So say your first $1,000 a month. Well, if you spent $1,000 a month and the tax rate was 23%, right? Then you would pay $230 in taxation. So that would be the amount of your prebate would be the $230.
I'm glad you explained that, because that's what you're right. That's what their excuse was behind it. But either way, it's still a monthly check that every American would receive from the government, and would create a welfare mentality, an entitlement mentality among far more people than currently exist.
See, I don't know that it would necessarily create that mentality. I don't know.
That's one of the reasons UBI is a problem.
UBI doesn't have to be a problem in concept. The problem with UBI, just like most other things that I take issue with, is where does the funding come from?
So let's get back to Greg. We'll let him answer that question coming up here, because I don't know what this guy's proposal is, this Yang. Because again, there's a variety of these different variants of UBI proposals. People keep making them. And of course, it's predicated on the idea that somehow automation is going to eliminate jobs, when, as we pointed out earlier, it usually just people shift into new careers and new skills. Anyway, more coming up here. We can continue with Greg. Your calls and thoughts welcome in the remaining moments of Free Talk Live, on the way at 8:55, 450 free. It's Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. Enough time for you. If you want to dial in toll free, you can do that. Bring up whatever you want to discuss. Talking about universal basic income right now. Greg's on the line in New York. We'll continue with that discussion. It's Ian, Rich, and Richie in the studio here tonight. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Also, don't forget about our forum. You can go and join discussions with other Free Talk Live listeners in a forum setting. We talk a lot about the Discord, which is an on-air, so like a chat room, or actually a variety of chat rooms on a chat server, which is fun. The forum is a different kind of feel, because then it's more organized. Instead of just real-time chat, it's organized into different topics. And you can go to forum.freetalklive.com to find that and get interactive there. Forum.freetalklive.com. So we go back to Greg in New York on our Discord lines. Go ahead, Greg. You called in about this political candidate, Yang, who had proposed a UBI, but I don't think you really kind of got into the details before we ended up going off and talking about it.
Yeah, tell me about Yang's proposal.
Sure. Well, I think Yang's platform in general is really smart. Look, let me talk about U.S. politics just for a second, okay? I think that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton largely because Hillary was out of touch with the workers in this country, people who were losing jobs, people whose wages were stagnant. And someone like Bernie Sanders spoke to the workers. Hillary did not. Trump did. So I think that in this election, it will come down to, for a lot of people, what can you do for me? And while Bernie, I love, Bernie's concern for the people of this country, I think Andrew Yang almost has smarter proposals, because he's not, doing a Green New Deal, for example. He would do something with like a carbon tax, where the carbon tax would get redistributed to everybody equally as universal basic income. That's actually a proposal that's already been done by the climate lobby, and it's in Congress.
I'm already against him.
18. So that's a nice.
By the way,
the thing that I like about that proposal is if you use less than the median amount of carbon, you can then completely ignore the system, and whatever your amount of basically you'll have a balance accumulating in an account somewhere, and you can completely ignore that.
You can do that and eliminate your income tax by not working that much either.
True.
It says here, by the way, I just pulled up Yang 2020's website, and it says, how do we pay for universal basic income? And one of their main proposals here is a value-added tax. So they are proposing, or at least Yang is proposing, a 10% VAT tax, which, as you explained earlier, Rich, hits at every level of production. Every time a thing is sold from producer to wholesaler or supplier to producer to wholesaler, it gets taxed.
Yeah, and the other thing is that creates a disadvantage for local suppliers above, say, Chinese producers who aren't paying the value-added tax and don't have to carry that extra cost forward through the supply chain. So I really think that
tariffs on Chinese goods too.
That the fair tax would be a better. I mean, if the thing to do if you wanted to go to kind of the extreme of that system would be to have the fair tax plus the universal basic income, which is then an inflated prebate. It's already built in that there is some amount, and yes, that amount could be reduced to could be called could be a UBI as well.
What I love about these proposals is that they're all equivalent in some way. Like Milton Friedman talked about a negative tax. You have now the UBI, and essentially it represents choice. It represents freedom. What I want to see is
that's a crazy thing to say.
That was a big old leap.
That a tax represents freedom. There's no such thing.
I'll give you an example why I think
that's a matter of
freedom.
point of view. I understand his point of view. It's saying freedom from the need to go work for somebody else or starve, which are basically your choices in today's society.
You can go right now. Well, not right now. They're probably closed. But during the daytime, you can go down to the food bank here in Keene and get a box full of food. So the idea that you have a choice
be homeless.
Well, I'll explain. I don't mean freedom just like that. I mean freedom like if you have food stamps, you have to spend them on food. But if you have UBI,
no, you don't have to spend them on food. You can sell them to people who then give you cash for them.
Legally, you have to send them on food. Let's not pick let's not pick nits that small.
But it happens.
Yeah, the point is, it's much more convenient to spend cash than food stamps and try to get out of it.
It's hard to buy crack with food stamps.
That's
not
right. That's
really.
right.
But it can be done. Yeah.
Well, what I used to tell people to do when they came with food stamps and wanted weed is I would say, well, go down to the grocery store
buy you some steak
and get me 12 packs of soda. Right. And then I would keep the sodas in the refrigerator. And when most of the people I dealt with were runners, so they were running in and out all day, and they were running across town. Most of them didn't have cars. And so I'd sell them the sodas back cold one at a time.
Yep.
And end up making $12 off a 12-pack I paid $2 for. But anyway, go ahead.
Yep. Let's get back to the UBI.
That's one guy, and maybe that's $12. But for the vast majority of, they want to be able to have individual choice as to where they spend their money. And the other nice thing about this is that if you have a UBI, you might be able to abolish the minimum wage, because if you're already getting
might be able to. That's like part and parcel is you don't have a minimum wage if you have a UBI. Because there's no reason for one anymore. The justification is gone.
I like the idea of people being able to spend their money where they want to, so long as that money is honorably earned.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're spending food stamps, you have to spend it at some kind of a corporate store that has a connection to the government so that they can accept your food stamps.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And so
but I wouldn't
if
even
you just
that
have cash, you can spend that with your agorist neighbor.
But remember, because this is going, at least in Yang's proposal, going to require a VAT tax, the price of everything's going to go up. So his proposal is to give everybody $1,000 a month. Your $1,000 a month isn't going to buy near as much as $1,000 a month today would buy after you put in a VAT tax.
That's probably true. The fair tax would not have that have that effect because it would be repealing a bunch of other tax, and those taxes
Supposedly.
get embedded in the price. Well, if like I say, if it doesn't do that, then no true fair tax would not repeal those things.
How many political programs have been proposed without modification in a committee, right? Like you propose a thing and then the committee modifies it. So it'll never look like the fair tax. Whatever it is that if somebody puts a fair tax proposal in, it will not look like it was put in when it gets passed. Guaranteed.
Yeah, that's almost almost certainly true, and you would have to look at the individual proposal to see it. But conceptually,
all right.
Greg.
So conceptually, then, on as far as UBI is concerned, I'm not an advocate for it.
Me neither.
I'm not a fan of it.
I think it's bad news.
Like I said before the break earlier, it comes down to how is it funded, and the only
by force, I guarantee it.
Guaranteed.
No, well,
however,
if it was up to me, I just want to say how I would fund it. If I was doing this, I would fund it first and foremost with a carbon tax, because if anything else, even if we distribute $1 to each person, I know those people will vote up the tax. And I would like to see finally someone put a tax on the externality of everyone poisoning the atmosphere and polluting the atmosphere. I would love to see a tax on that just for that, so renewables can have.
So let me
of
throw
course,
out
my big issues there is I don't know that carbon dioxide qualifies as a pollutant.
Isn't it what trees breathe?
Carbon dioxide is part of the life
and what
cycle.
you exhale.
Yeah.
At 1,000 ppm, human cognition goes down, and we're already at 400. In the last 10 years, we've added another 20 ppm.
So
I blame the government schools.
Let me throw out one concept to fund UBI proposed to me by a friend, and it seems to be more reasonable than anything else I've heard so far.
All right.
And his proposal is, so long as there's going to be inflationary currency, the first new prints should be given out as UBI payments
instead of given to corporations.
Yeah, that's actually a method that I've considered as well, and it does guarantee the eventual destruction of the dollar. But the eventual destruction of the dollar is already
anyway.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
So speeding that along would be a feature, not a bug.
Well, now, Greg, I mentioned this during the break because, Richie, you brought up that your friend is interested in working on some sort of a cryptocurrency UBI, and I said, well, Greg actually has already got that project started. You want to plug your Intercoin?
Sure. What you guys just mentioned, that community could print currency and give it to everybody. Intercoin, that's one of the applications. We want to have communities be self-sufficient, not necessarily depend on government given money from above. Even though it's legal tender, obviously you need to accept it, but it's a complementary currency that then you could use in your local community, help.
So why not just give out Intercoin instead of VAT taxing everybody?
That's the thing. That's what he's proposing, is to do it voluntarily. If you can do it voluntarily, I think that's obviously the ideal method. And Greg, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Intercoin's an interesting concept, and they've already got a website and stuff put together, so check that out. I forget what it is. But anyway, more just search for it. We'll see you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live, Anarchapulco 2019, on the final day of what's been a fantastic weekend, and we've been grabbing some extra interviews here because there's interesting people that are involved in this, and we don't just want to arbitrarily end things because our show is over, because the radio show's done. So we got plenty more room because we've got podcasts. That means after shows. That means we're not limited by the pesky FCC or the pesky clock. So here we are, Ian and Mark, in our remote studio. And we've got Geoff McCabe here with us from RanchoDelicioso.com. But you're also involved with the Divvy Project, right? Which we talked about on the air over the weekend. But you wanted to talk about Rancho Delicioso with us. Is that right?
Yeah, I thought your listeners would find it interesting.
So tell us about it.
Yeah. So basically, I live in Costa Rica. I've been there for 13 years. And around 8 years ago, I bought a big piece of very barren, sort of spoiled land that had been overgrazed for perhaps 80 years. And
by what?
By too much cattle farming.
Cattle, okay.
And
near where?
Yeah, so between Montezuma and Santa Teresa on the Pacific side of Costa Rica.
Okay.
So basically,
close to the beach?
Yeah, about 10 minutes drive.
Okay, so it's warm all year there.
Warm all year. And not a lot of bugs, not a lot of snakes. A lot of people imagine all kinds of things about the tropics. This is more like, I don't know, it's really a paradise kind of area.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I had a real estate company down there, and I had known about this piece of land, and I thought, nobody's going to ever buy this piece of land. It's really was kind of ugly. It was just covered with weeds. It had terrible erosion problems on it. And somebody asked me, well, one time they're like, well, who would buy this? And I started thinking about it. I was like, well, the only person that would buy this is somebody that wanted to try to heal this piece of land. And I started thinking, like, that would be really fun, actually, And I'd heard about some projects like this where people in Colombia or in Israel had found pieces of land that just had nothing growing on them, and they had taken the time by adding a lot of love and money and organic material, really, and carefully managing their water, had been able to sort of bring these pieces of land back to life. And so I started thinking about it. I thought, wow, this would be really actually a fantastic project to do. And so that's what I did. I ended up buying it, and I've been working for about 8 years on it, basically trying to improve the soil and mitigating all these problems. Well, for instance, this originally had been owned by a Costa Rican group that tried to do a California-style development there, and nobody would buy it. They couldn't even sell one of these because that's not why people are going to Costa Rica. People are going to Costa Rica to try to escape from California, right? So nobody wanted that, and they eventually went bankrupt. But they had, in the meantime, sort of dug out all these roads and then abandoned them, which is terrible. They'd scraped off all the topsoil, and then for 6 or 7 years, the rain had just created these deep ruts. It was terrible. And so there's a type of grass called a vetiver, which is incredibly good at preventing erosion, and it grows. It's kind of like this magic stuff. It's one of the world's most valuable plants. In the fact of how, like bamboo or like hemp, it has a lot of great properties that have helped human beings. It's used all over the world for erosion control. As an example, I was managing a house for somebody, and they had gotten a quote for $25,000 to fix a landslide. And the engineers came in, and they wanted to put in these buttresses and these giant sort of baskets full of rocks and stuff. And I was able to solve their problem for $200 in a day.
Wow.
Just by getting a bunch of this grass and planting it there. It's one of these plants where it's about 1 meter high. It never grows more than that. But it grows down like 10, 12 feet deep. It's mostly roots. And so once you put this stuff in,
you never get rid of it by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, you can get rid of it by just chopping it all off and sort of digging the top out. It won't grow back. Okay. But it's really great stuff. And so we use that. It's also one of the top plants that's used for making essential oils. So people use it as a base for essential oils. And they also use it for making clothing. They use it for making baskets. And over 100 million people on the planet have roofs of houses that are made with vetiver grass, too. So it's an incredibly useful plant. And so that's like one of the kinds of things we're doing there. And
what regions does it grow in?
I think it's actually from Asia. So mainly they're using it in India and in Southeast Asia for when I've seen photos online where they build huge freeways and they have to cut through the mountainside.
So you couldn't use it in, say, Saskatchewan?
No, it's
okay.
It's definitely a tropical plant.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think almost every culture or every climatic region is going to have some sort of plant that you can use for these kind of things.
So, this plant, and what's the grass called?
Vetiver.
Vetiver. So this grass goes, holds the topsoil that exists, or holds the soil that exists in. But how do you create more soil? I mean, on this land, the soil was scraped off. So how do you get more?
Right. So that's a good question.
I'm full of them.
Dump trucks full of it?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways. Basically, you become just a person that just values any type of dead plant that you see. Like when I drive down the road,
composting. Okay,
I see like logs laying there where some farmer cut it, and I just have this urge all the time to like grab a pickup truck and drive back and throw that in the back.
That's hugelkultur, is that right?
Hugelkultur, yeah. So you know about that.
Okay,
that's a different technique, but that's piling up logs and you put topsoil on top of it and creates great drainage, and we have that on the farm too. But yeah, basically we're looking for any kind of organic material. So one of the things like we do is it will grow fields of this type of bean. I don't know what it's actually called. We call it elephant bean because they're just gigantic. And some of our workers from Nicaragua brought them. We asked them if they knew of anything, and they said, oh yeah, in Costa Rica or in Nicaragua we have this plant that we grow that helps just suck tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. It helps recharge the soil. It creates a lot of new material. So that's basically what you're doing. You're actually, it's sort of with the greenhouse warming idea. We're doing something about that very directly, in that we're sucking carbon out of the atmosphere.
Are there
using
plants that consume more carbon dioxide than other plants, or are all plants basically the same then?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how much do they grow, how quickly they grow. So something like bamboo.
You would think the scientists could solve this, right? Like, find the plant that chews up the most carbon dioxide, and then run a few commercials on some podcasts or YouTube or whatever, tell everybody to plant this stuff.
Exactly.
It's not that hard.
It's it really would be that easy, and that's why they have big programs in different countries. Like in China, they're trying to plant 100 million trees right now in the desert. They found species that'll grow there with little water and little oversight. But there's also places like Australia where basically all the soil and the actual bio life has been removed from the soil because for hundreds of millions of years, at this very old place, all the minerals have been sucked out by the roots of the plants over millions and millions of years into these trees, and people cut down these trees, hauled them away, and built houses out of them. And now nothing will really grow there because there wasn't any soil left either. And so when you plant something there, it's hard for them to find enough minerals to grow very strongly. So it takes a lot of work. Permaculture was invented in Australia, and there's always ways. It's just a matter of how much time and difficulty and sometimes money. You can speed it all up by throwing money in it. You can find somebody that has organic material of some kind and just pay them to haul a huge truck. Yeah. And that's a lot of these people that have great stories where they find somebody that has some sort of byproduct from some sort of corn husks or something like this, or roots left over. They don't know what to do with it, and they say, "Oh, why don't you come and dump it over here?" And so they'll pile up 10 feet deep of this stuff, and they come back in a year later, and wow, look! All of a sudden, there's 10 feet of organic material. Once you take out the water and the air, you'll probably have like an inch.
Yeah,
but still, you can do an inch of topsoil in a year. That's pretty good. You know.
Yeah, a lot of people, at least in the United States, I mean, I don't know what it's like in Costa Rica, but there's these Asplund businesses where they have it's a truck and a chipper and a crew of guys with equipment and like chainsaws and those sorts of things, and they come by, they eat up all the extra vegetation that you have, then they have to find a place to put it. We used to take it on our farm because we had things that we needed to fill in and that kind of thing. The pigs like to play in it, and if nothing else, and it just turns into soil.
Yeah, it's amazing. We in Costa Rica, though, it's so humid and it's hot, and you've got rain, and you've got this perfect condition for creating compost or just creating soil. So you can pretty much just pile up anything and just come back in a few months, and you're going to have this great.
How many people live on the land of yours?
Right now, it's actually about 60 lots, but half of them are never for sale. They're basically green zones, so they're for farming, or they're for the wild animals that live there. So that everybody has a lot of privacy and space and sort of green area where people aren't packed together. And of those, I think 20 or so are sold, and only 5 or 6 people have actually built so far and are actually living there. But I've been specifically looking for people that plan to live there 6 months or more. There's a few people that are doing sort of vacation ideas, but a lot of people that have visited our place said that's what they've seen a lot in Costa Rica, is that people do these eco-villages, but there's actually nobody living there because they're only vacation homes. So there's no actual community that's forming there. And so I've tried to keep that from happening.
Community is the buzzword these days. Everybody wants a community.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means, but they want it.
Yeah, and that's interesting. One of the reasons I thought you'd be interested in talking about this is because of something that I've learned being here. And I was describing my community to somebody that was here, and one of the first questions she asked me was, she said, "Well, what are your rules?" And I said, "Well, we don't really have a lot of words." And she said, "Well, it's an anarchist community." And I was like, "Well, not really. I'm not really an anarchist, I would say." And she said, "Yeah, you are. The way you're describing this, you're an anarchist." And I never really thought about that. But basically, her thesis was she had been vegan for a while, and she found it was very unhealthy for her. She kept trying it in different ways, and it wasn't good for her body. And but she said all the cool eco villages are all vegan. They require me to be vegan, and I can't live there now. They won't let me live there.
Oh wow!
And so she said she wanted to know if I have rules. I'm like, no, we don't have the kind of rules. We do have vegans. We have people that love raw food. Most of us are very healthy. We're very active. We surf and we do regular exercise. but we don't have rules where we require people to do anything. We don't have people.
So we don't have cows or chickens and slaughter them. You can do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if somebody told me they wanted to start a cattle farm on their land, I might have an issue with it. But but part of that's because of the law in Costa Rica. You're only allowed to have 1 cow per hectare.
Okay.
And the lots are about half a hectare, so there's not really space for cows.
Gotcha.
But if somebody wanted to have a milk cow, and people do have goats, and people have chickens, so that's all fine. And most people are really very healthy, with the way they're eating. But she said the same thing that I've heard over and over and over again. Everybody that comes to interview about whether they want to move there or not, every person that's lived in these kind of communities says the same thing. She said it's all the rules. It's all the committees,
central committee,
the meetings, all this kind of stuff. They suck all
the nightly subcommittee meetings with the biweekly committee meetings, and then the bi-monthly meeting of the whole. It's awful.
Sound like commies.
So basically, she said basically they just suck all the joy out of the whole thing. And people stop going to the meetings, but then there's always
the people that are willing to go to the meetings are then the ones that run everything.
Exactly. There's just a few people that have nothing better to do in their lives, and they tend and people want to fight with them, and they're willing to fight, and so they start running
like
things.
Government.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
just on a micro scale.
So I decided early on, no, we're not going to do any of that. And I have told people, I said, look, if everybody wants to have some rules, we can sit down, and once half the lots are sold, which they are, we can sit down and we can talk, and we can decide on a set of guidelines that I will show to anybody that's interested in buying lots and say, this is the way we're planning to live. If you agree with them, move. If you don't agree with this, then don't buy. But I don't want anybody be anybody's daddy and have to enforce this stuff. And nobody wants to do that.
No one wants to. Well, you don't want to do it. Some people do want to do that, right? That's why they form these committees and neighborhood Nazis. They're called neighborhood Nazis in in gated communities.
I'm going to be using that term from now on. Yeah. But anybody that
I'm surprised you haven't heard it.
No.
It is really it's in prolific use in the U.S.
Yeah. So anybody that looks I talk to everybody extensively, and anybody that seems like the neighborhood Nazi type, I kind of try to show them somewhere else to buy.
This place isn't for you.
I introduce them to my partner in the real estate company and say, hey, welcome to Montezuma, welcome to Santa Teresa, but this place is probably not for you.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing.
Neat. That's Rancho Delicioso. Mark, any other questions?
No, I think I got it.
Anything else that you wanted to share about it, Geoff?
No, I just wanted to mention, Costa Rica is a great place. There's a lot of wonderful communities and a lot of towns. Everybody probably a lot of people have heard about Costa Rica. The rumors are definitely true about it being a very green place. The people are really friendly. It has the most eco-friendly electric grid in the world. It's supposed to be the first country to be carbon neutral in the world.
It's not cheap like it used to be, right?
And none of your taxes go to support war. They have no army in Costa Rica.
That's right.
It's a phenomenally great country.
What about the war on drugs?
Yeah, and the number one piece of advice I would give anybody moving there is learn Spanish. If you're not going to learn Spanish enough to have a conversation with the locals, then don't bother to come and move there, because you're only going to have half of the great experience you could if you're not going to be able to really be friends with the local people.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Hey, so Costa Rica, as far as costs go, I'd heard that it, back in the 80s or whatever, it was inexpensive. What about now? How's it compared to U.S.?
It's expensive. It's the same price as the U.S., and some things are more.
Wow. All right, and what about immigration?
There's several different ways you can have a baby there. So it's a good place for families. A lot of young couples that have people in the crypto community. There's quite a few cryptocurrencies there. I'm the CEO of a cryptocurrency.
Yep.
And there's another one in my small town that was also started there called Nimic. And there's a lot of crypto people there in Costa Rica. And there's also just a lot of people that are just doing sort of digital nomad kind of stuff that live there. And those are the kind of people that do well in Costa Rica, because there's not a lot of jobs.
Geoff McCabe, thank you for coming on Free Talk Live. That's ranchodelicioso.com if you want to check more of him out. Also, was it divvyproject.org?
Yes.
The other one? Check him out. And it's been Ian and Mark here at Anarchapulco 2019. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.